Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For this tutorial, I'm going to show you a marbled buttercream transfer technique, and I'm also going to show you how to make gold edible tulle. I have shown you how to make the different colors before, but this time we're going to do it with gold, which I had struggled with, and now I have figured it out. But first, let's get our cake ready. And this was already filled, and I am doing the crumb coat. The deal with this cake was this was actually an order for work, and it was for one of my good friends, Chelsea, for her birthday. So the bottom of the cake was a regular, I think it was white almond vanilla, but the top was gluten-free. So what I did to keep them separate was I put a board in between the layers. It was just that the first top two layers there, that was one pan of cake of gluten-free coconut, and I leveled it and I torted it and I put some buttercream in there. My buttercream is gluten-free already, so I didn't have to worry about that. I could use that over the entire cake, but I needed to make sure that that layer did not touch the rest of the cake, so I just did a cake board in between. Easy peasy. So now we're going to make the gold edible tulle or edible lace, whatever you wanted to call it. And I'm starting with, I believe it's 100 grams of cold water. Grams or milliliters, I'm not sure. I'm going to add the recipe in the description box. So if I get this wrong, just go ahead and look that up in the description. It should all be there for you. So we're doing the cold water first. And then we need one sheet of wafer paper. This is 0 grade wafer paper. Now just rip it into smaller pieces and put it into the cold water. On this, you can use a any kind of a tool, a blender, any kind of a tool that's going to emulsify it basically. And just keep mixing it until it is all combined into one. And it's going to look a little opaque. And at this point I added some gold airbrush color. Now I was kind of experimenting here. So just the gold airbrush color itself did not add enough gold. So then I added some edible gold luster dust and emulsified that into the rest of the mixture. Now this is not going to be a bright shiny gold, but it's still going to be gold. And what I found with this, since you're adding the luster dust to it, it's going to want to stick to your pan and not want to come off. It's going to be more in a solid sheet. So I sprayed on some nonstick spray. Remove the excess, you don't want a whole bunch, and make sure that your pan is on medium high, because what's going to cause or make the lacy look is the bubbles that you get when it starts to cook. So the pan needs to be hot enough. And I like to use a silicone pastry brush to move it around, and I'm kind of stippling at it, kind of tapping at the top with the tips of my bristles of the pastry brush. And this takes a little while. And what you want it to do is start to thicken up a little bit and dry up a little bit. And when it gets to that point is when you can really kind of remove some of the excess or just kind of move it around by stippling it with that brush. Otherwise, you are going to get more of a solid piece of, basically it turns back into the wafer paper. So that's going to give you the different texture there. And when it is done cooking, it's going to start peeling up from the pan a little bit. Now this gold I did not get it to come up in one solid sheet. It just didn't want to do that. But I did get some larger pieces. And I was going to break it into smaller pieces anyway, so I wasn't too worried about it. And then I did some white. It's the same recipe, you just don't add the gold to it. And do the same technique. Now this will release from your pan a little bit easier because you don't have the added color in it. And this will be a little bit more fragile and delicate when it's first cooked. But as you let it set on the counter and it kind of comes to room temperature and it kind of absorbs a little bit of moisture from the air, it's going to soften up a little bit. And there's our white. So now we're going to put on the final layer of buttercream on our big tall cake here. I'm using a piping bag because I can remove extra air bubbles, because when you push it through the hole in the piping bag, it kind of pops some of those air bubbles a little bit. And then we're going to get it nice and smooth because this is our final coat. And fill in any gaps. Now I did put that back into the refrigerator while I got my transfer ready. And I'm just using the white and the blue to marble it. Just put a little dollop of both in there and just very sparingly try not to overmix it, because that's when you end up getting away from the marble look. The marble look is just a very slight combination of the colors. And just put dollops on your acetate sheet. And you don't have to do this at an angle if you don't want to. You could put it on a piece of acetate that's the same diameter as your cake and wrap it around your entire cake if you prefer. But this was the inspiration. We were given an inspiration picture, and this is the way that the design they wanted was done. Now this is, well, that was the front, but this is the back of your acetate sheet. This is going to be against the cake, so don't worry about it looking more blended, because you're not going to see that. What you're going to see is on the other side, like I gave you that little sneak peek of. And just remove the excess and get it kind of leveled out so that when you place it on your cake, you get a good adhesion onto the cake, because it'll be all the same thickness. And now that our cake is nice and chilled and firm to the touch, we can lift up our buttercream and just place it onto the cake. It's really that simple. And just smooth it out with your fondant smoother. And then put it back in the freezer for, I would say, maybe an hour before you can bring it out and remove your acetate. Yeah, now there will be a little buttercream stuck on the acetate, but it does not take away from the look of your marbling at all. And now to attach the edible lace, I'm just using a little bit of buttercream. You could use piping gel, but I happen to have had the buttercream on hand, and to show you that you can use it with wafer paper and it's just fine. It doesn't melt your wafer paper. Water, condensation is what's going to potentially melt your wafer paper a little bit. My bottle and my little thermos in the back there. I didn't realize it was in the picture, or in the frame. And there it is, all done. Now you could probably use the same technique on any kind of a metallic. But we'll start with the gold and see what we might want to try next, because I absolutely love the tool. So I hope you liked it, guys. And as always, if you try something like this, go ahead and share it with me on Instagram. So thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch my video. And if you'd like to watch some other videos, go ahead and click on the link to one of these other videos shown here. And if you would like to check out my other social media, I am on Facebook and Instagram under the same name, Sophisticakes by Mary. And please take the time to share, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you know when I upload another video. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you on the next tutorial.